In this question, we need to remember what products, prime, and factors means. Now, product means to multiply. Factors are numbers that go into another number. So, for example, 4 goes into 504, and prime factors are then the prime numbers that go into it. So they only have two factors themselves, and so we need to know basically our low primes, such as 2, 3, 5, and 7. Okay, and the way to do this is to draw a factor tree. So I've got 504, and then I'm going to split it up. So I did note that 4 goes into 504, so this is a calculator question, and I can write down that it's 4 times 126. Now, often you sort of go with, because it's an even number, you divide by 2, that's fine as well. There's lots of different factor trees you could get, but they will all give the same answer. They'll just stop at, like, they'll just have slightly different branches. So if I do 4, and I can split that into 2 and 2, and now I've stopped that branch, I'll carry on with 126. That one's even, so I'm going to make that 2, and then I'm left with 63. And 63 becomes, it's 7 times 9, 7's prime. Finally, I've got 9, which is 3 and 3. So I've got my answer. It's 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 7. Now we can actually check our answer using, if you've got a calculator with this fact button, then you can type in the number that you're interested in, 504 in this case, press equals and press shift fact and see if it gives the same one. Now they've given index notation, which is absolutely fine. I've left it expanded, but we can see that we are correct. So that's quite nice. We must show our working here. If you just write the answer down, it's not, then you'll lose marks basically. So make sure you do put a factor tree down. Okay, find the lowest common multiple of 180 and 504. There are 3 ways of doing this, and I guess the first thing to think about is, what is the lowest common multiple? It's the lowest number that is in both times tables. So method 1, which you can do for this sort of question, is to write down the times tables. The 180 times table goes something like this, and you'd have to keep going, and then you'd compare 504. You'd have to write down the 504 times table, and then you have to keep going with this until you get a match. Now that can work if the numbers are quite nice and small, but this is going to take a long time. But we could do it that way, and it's good to talk about that way because it gives you some understanding of what the lowest common multiple is. I'm going to go through the way that I like to teach because it's advantageous for more complicated questions later on, and that is to write down the product. Each number is a product of prime factors. So we've dealt with 504. It's 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 7. And now I'm going to do the same for 180, but I'm going to do that quickly. I'm going to use my calculator to do that. So 180 equals shift fact, and I get 2 squared times 3 squared times 5. 180 equals 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 5. Notice I've left gaps where it doesn't have a pair. So there's nothing that pairs up with 2, there's nothing that pairs up with 7, and nothing that pairs up with 5. Now, I want to find the lowest common multiple. So I know that 504 times 180 is a multiple, but is there a lower one? And the answer is yes, because, for example, 504 is in the 8 times table, 180 is in the 4 times table. So I don't need to multiply all 5 of these 2's together, which I'm doing down here. In fact, these ones are shared, and then I just need to also multiply by this 2. So I'm basically going to multiply by 2 times 2 times 2. That will account for the fact that they're both in the 8 times table. I just need to also multiply by this 2 as well. So I just multiply by 2 here, and then 2 here. I can do similar here. Both of them are in the 9 times table. So I don't want to do this, and because that would be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. I can get away with just doing 3 times 3. However, 504 is in the 7 times tables, whereas the other one's not, so I will need to multiply by 7, and I will need to multiply by 5. To be honest, I should just put this working up here, and then for my final answer, I can just multiply those numbers together, and I get 2520. And that's the answer. Just to say one other thing, if I want the highest common factor, then it's just the ones that are circled multiplied together, because it's the highest number that goes into both. Turns out actually in this case, when I'm listing them, I wouldn't have had to have gone on too much further. So this would have been an okay method in this particular case, but I would say much better to do this. I am going to show one more method for how you could do it. Just it might be a method that you like and you want to learn. So I can take 180 and I can take 504 and write them next to each other, and then I can find factors that go into both. So 2 goes into both, and then I do 180 divided by 2 to give me 90, and 504 divided by 2 to give me 252, and I keep going until they don't have common factors. So they've got another common factor of 2, 45 and 126. Okay, now 2 doesn't go into 180 again, but what else does? Well, 3 will go into both, and sometimes you just have to do a bit of trial and error. But yeah, 15 times if I divide it, and 126 divided by 3 is 42. It turns out 3 goes into them again, so I've got 3, and that gives me 5, and 3 is into 42, go 14, and now they don't share any common factors. Now this thing down the left, if I multiply them together, gives me my highest common factor. If I draw an L around the bottom row in this, if I multiply these together, then that will give me my lowest common multiple. That will always work for 2 numbers. The advantage of this method is if it works for 3 numbers, or if the numbers given to you in prime factor form, product of prime factor form, that can be useful. There are more other advantages to this one, but be aware of these 2. I think it helps for understanding, and they both do work as well.